This AI can make anyone say anything.
When someone gets angry, their voice tends to lower in pitch as well as getting somewhat louder.
Can we just get on with it already?
Plus, you can even get multiple characters to talk in the same video using different voices.
The $6 haircuts for poor people from the people who don't really know how to cut hair yet. That's not true. This is the Tristan Evans salon.
You can even get multiple people to sing together. Or here's an even crazier thing you can do. You can use a reference video to control the movement of your character, plus a reference photo of her, and then get her to speak Spanish like this.
A veces solo necesitas una voz clara y directa que transmita la información de manera sencilla.
This AI is called MultiTalk, and this is one of the most powerful tools out there to get anyone to speak or sing. Best of all, this is completely free and open source. So in this video, I'm going to go over all the cool things it can do, and of course, I'm going to show you step by step how to install this on your computer, even if you have low VRAM, so you can run it for free for unlimited times offline. Note that MultiTalk was actually released a while ago, but I was waiting for an easier workflow that works on low VRAM to show you guys. Well, finally, there is an easier version that was released a few days ago that works with low VRAM. And that's what we're going to go over in this video. But first of all, here are some examples from their official project page. So all you need to do is input a reference image to use as the start frame, and then any audio clip, even of two people talking, and here's what you get.
MultiTalk is an audio-driven video animation model.
Wow, I like MultiTalk. That's amazing.
How'd you get into the looping machine?
I went to go and see a band that I loved when I was about 14, and the guy was opening up.
Look at how realistic everyone moves in the scene. Like, this is one of the most natural and realistic looking lip sync tools I've come across so far. Not only does it move their heads and faces, but it moves the entire body and the scene. Here are some other examples.
The $6 haircuts for poor people from the people who don't really know how to cut hair yet. That's not true. This is the Tristan Evans salon. I'm sure that everyone that's enrolled here is a genius.
Video. It's about making multiple people talk and interact in a video, realistically, just based on their audio.
That's right. We're digging into a research paper that introduces this new framework. They call it MultiTalk. And it's tackling a pretty big challenge, moving beyond just single talking heads.
Which we've seen a lot of.
Exactly. Moving beyond that to creating whole scenes, groups of people having conversations. And here's the key. Each person...
Now, instead of realistic videos, this can also generate different art styles. So for example, here are some 3D Pixar style generations.
You're under arrest.
Really? For what?
Gee, I don't know. How about selling food without a permit?
Today, we're looking at something really cutting edge in AI video. It's about making multiple people talk and interact in a video, realistically, just based on their audio.
That's right. We're digging into a research paper that introduces this new framework. They call it MultiTalk. And it's tackling a pretty big challenge, moving beyond just single talking heads.
I mean, this tool is an absolute game changer if you want to create animations, especially with characters talking. Look how good the lip sync is, even for all these different non-human characters in different art styles. And yes, this can even generate singing videos. Now, when I post this to YouTube, some of these clips might get muted due to copyright issues, but hopefully none of them do, so you can actually hear what they're
thinking we could make it work. Can you blame me for getting my hopes up?
Now, instead of one person singing, you can also do duets like this.
Oh, 'cause I need you to see.
And look how passionately they're singing. Now, most other AI lip sync tools, they cannot get someone to sing passionately like this. Like, their face is really kind of monotone and expressionless, but for this one, it's really good at handling these more complex and extreme expressions. Now, instead of image to video, you can also just use a text prompt to generate the video. So for example, here is a text prompt. We have a fox with a mischievous grin and a rabbit with a determined expression. The fox is in a green shirt and striped tie. The rabbit is in a blue outfit with headphones resting on the table. A Disney branded mug sits between them on the wooden table, etc., etc., and it captures everything in the scene perfectly.
How was your workout today?
I ran for 30 minutes, and I'm exhausted.
Note that in the backend, MultiTalk actually uses Wan 2.1 by Alibaba, which is the best open source video generator you can use right now. Now, these are just some of the demos from their official page, but who knows, maybe these could be cherry-picked. So let's also test this out ourselves. Here's what the interface looks like, and don't worry, in the latter half of the video, I'm going to show you step by step how to install this on your computer. It's called WanGP, and this is the easiest interface where you can use MultiTalk. There's also another way to use MultiTalk, which is in Comfy UI using this Wan wrapper by Keyjive, but this is just really complicated for the average person, and just looking at all these nodes and noodles is very intimidating, and that's why I prefer to use this WanGP method. Anyways, here's the interface, and at the top here is where you can select MultiTalk. Now, there are actually several versions you can choose from. There's a 480p version and a 720p version, but actually I prefer to use this one, VACE MultiTalk FusionX. It's a pretty long name, but it's hella good. Especially if you don't have an insane amount of VRAM, this method is way faster than just the raw version of MultiTalk. So note that this basically uses a combination of Wan VACE with MultiTalk and FusionX Infinite. So first of all, Wan VACE is an absolute beast. This is an incredibly flexible tool that allows you to basically apply the movements of a reference video onto your output video. This gives you full control of how you want the characters to move in your video. Plus, you can also do reference to video like this, where you have a photo of a woman and a handbag, and you can generate a video of her holding the handbag like this. Or you can combine the motion of one video and a reference character onto a new video. So for example, here you can get Naruto to surf on a surfboard by following the motions of this pose skeleton video. So that is Wan VACE, and in fact, I already did a full installation tutorial on that, so see this video if you're interested. And then FusionX or FusionX, whatever you want to call it, this is basically a fine-tune of Wan 2.1, which has even better quality and generates way faster. So in general, for Wan 2.1, you probably need like 20 steps to generate a video, but for FusionX, this only requires as few as 6 steps. So this takes like less than half as much time. And the result of FusionX is really good, as you can see from some of these examples. So anyways, back to here, this basically merges all three of these things together, VACE, MultiTalk, and FusionX, to give you ultimate control over how you want to control the video as well as generate the sound for the video. Plus with FusionX, it can generate videos way faster. So that's what I'm going to use in this video. Now, after selecting this, there's actually a ton of settings and inputs you can use. So here is where you can input a video to control the pose or movement of your final video. I'll show you this in a second. Here is where you would input reference images of your character. Now, you don't have to input a reference image, and if you don't, you can just type in a text description to generate your video as well. But of course, if you upload an image, this gives you a lot more control over the character that you want to generate. Now, when I click on this, there are actually a ton of different options you can choose from, so let's just choose the first one, inject only people or objects. And then over here, I'm gonna upload this photo of a woman. And then over here, I can choose to keep the background or actually remove the background and get her to say something in a completely new setting. So actually, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna select remove background, and yes, it's only one person speaking for this example. And then here is where we upload the audio clip for her to speak. So I'm going to upload this short clip. Let me play this for you first.
Always be a first-rate version of yourself and not a second-rate version of someone else.
All right, so that's like 5 seconds. And then over here is where you need to enter a text prompt describing your final scene. So let's just write, she is talking at a park. So it should generate this woman talking at a park instead of this background. And then here is where you would choose the aspect ratio and resolution of your final video. To make this faster, I'm just going to leave it at 16:9 480p. And then here is where you would choose how long for the video to be. Now, the resulting video is roughly 25 frames per second, so you need to basically divide the number of frames by 25 to calculate the duration of the video. Now, since our audio is 5 seconds, it's 5 times 25, so let's set the number of frames to 125. But note that you can also set this all the way up to 737 frames, which is roughly 29 seconds. For me, I'm going to leave it at 125. And then for the number of inference steps, this is basically how many steps you want the AI to take before outputting your final video. In general, the more steps you have, the higher quality your video will be, but at a certain point, you're going to get diminishing returns. And then if you set this to a lower value, then it's going to generate faster because it takes fewer steps, but you're going to sacrifice some quality. So let's just leave this at the default of 10 steps. And then there's also this toggle for some advanced settings. Let's go over these really quickly. For guidance, this is basically like how much you want the AI to follow your prompt. And then for the audio guidance, this is like how much you want the AI to lip sync to your audio. If you feel like the person isn't speaking the audio accurately, you could set this to a higher value and see if that's any better. And then honestly, for the rest of these settings, I just leave it at the default. You can also activate T-cache and Meg-cache here, which would speed up your video generation even further. And it does this by basically skipping some of the steps that you specified up here. So it's going to sacrifice some quality, but usually it's not really noticeable. And if you turn this setting on, then you can speed this up by up to 2.5 times. So all you need to do is select either T-cache or Meg-cache up here. For me, because I do have a decent amount of VRAM, I'm gonna skip this step and set this to none. And then we also have this upsampling tab where after generating the video, you can plug it through a temporal upsampler or a spatial upsampler to make this even better quality. And then there's also a ton of other settings that you can play around with, like quality and sliding window. But it's beyond the scope of this tutorial, and again, usually everything just works fine without you needing to change any of these settings. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to show you this example first. Let's click generate. Now for the first time you run this, it's going to have to download some additional files, such as this depth anything, which is like over 1 gigabyte in size. Note that it only auto downloads this the first time you run it, and then afterwards everything's going to be way faster. And then here you can see it's downloading this text to video FusionX, which is almost 15 gigabytes in size. So this is going to take a while to download. Alright, after finally downloading all these gigabytes, it then proceeds to generate the video. Notice that it's out of 10 here because I've set it to 10 steps. And notice that I have an RTX 5000 which has around 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Alright, and here is what we get. Let me play this for you.
Always be a first-rate version of yourself and not a second-rate version of someone else.
And there you go. I don't know why it's getting her to talk on the phone, but she is speaking out the audio at a park. Or let's try another one. I'm gonna press X, I'm gonna upload this image, and then for the audio, let's try this.
She tore her gaze away from her ruined footwear, still very much grieving the loss, and set herself to the task of finding a dry place to stand.
And then for the prompt, let's get her to sit at a cafe. For the resolution and the number of frames, I'm gonna leave it the same. Now note that the audio here is 9 seconds, so if the number of frames is 125, which is roughly 5 seconds, it's actually going to truncate this at the 5-second mark. So if you want your video to encompass the entire audio clip, make sure you set the number of frames long enough to cover the entire duration of the audio clip. But in this example, I'm going to purposely set this to 5 seconds to show you that it cuts off like somewhere over here. Anyways, let's click generate and see what that gives us. And here's our result.
She tore her gaze away from her ruined footwear, still very much grieving the loss.
Alright, so you can see that it cuts off at the 5-second mark. Note that everything looks super realistic and natural, and it's not just her face moving, but her entire body. She even looks away sometimes, and she also blinks. Now, MultiTalk is also really good at handling different expressions and emotions. Now, the trick is to upload a reference image with that expression existing already in the photo. So, for example, I'm going to upload this image of a really angry woman at this restaurant, and then let's upload an angry audio clip. Here's what it sounds like.
On the other hand, when someone gets angry, their voice tends to lower in pitch as well as getting somewhat louder, but not necessarily yelling, just project.
And then for the prompt, I'm going to write she is very angry. Now, because this audio clip is 10 seconds long, let's also set the number of frames to 10 seconds times 25 frames per second, which is 250. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate. Alright, here's what we get.
On the other hand, when someone gets angry, their voice tends to lower in pitch as well as getting somewhat louder, but not necessarily yelling, just project.
Look at how realistic this video is. It actually, portrays the anger in the audio, and it can also detect like certain parts in the audio where there's emphasis and also portray that very well in the lip sync. Alright, next, let's try a sad example. So I'm gonna upload this image of a really sad looking dude, and then for the audio, let's try this.
Can we just get on with it already? My body is starting to take a toll.
So there's like crying, pausing, breathing, plus a really sad voice. Let's see if MultiTalk can generate this well. And then down here for the prompt, let's write he is sad and crying. Now, because this is a vertical image, I believe it's like 3:4. For this aspect ratio, let's also select 3:4. And then this is around 7 seconds, so let's set this to 7 seconds times 25 frames, which is 175 frames. And let's click generate. Alright, here's what we get.
Can we just get on with it already? My body is starting to take a toll.
This is really good. Like, he breathes and pauses exactly at the right places.
My body is...
Again, as you can see, this is one of the most realistic lip sync tools out there. And it's also great for handling different emotions. Thanks to Recraft for sponsoring this video. If you're looking for an AI image generator and editor, Recraft is the perfect tool for you. It gives you control over the entire design process. It features an infinite canvas for real-time collaboration and tons of features. It lets creators easily generate and endlessly iterate images, vector art, illustrations, and icons using the power of AI. Users can start from scratch using a text prompt or upload their brand's style to generate on-brand visuals. Recraft has over 3 million users and is trusted by industry leaders like HubSpot, Netflix, and Airbus. Look at how realistic and high quality these results are. It's known to do really well with anatomy, complex scenes, and prompt understanding. Plus, it can generate images with long texts as opposed to just one or a couple of words. Try Recraft today using the link in the description below. Alright, next let's test how good it is at lip syncing anime characters plus different languages. So I'm gonna upload this anime photo, and then for the audio, let's use this Japanese example.
新しい体験があなたを待っています。これから始まる AI との会話をどうぞお楽しみください。まるで友人と話しているかのように感じていただければ幸いです。
And then for the prompt, let's just put she is talking. And then for the aspect ratio, this is 16:9, so let's set this to 16:9. Now, just to make this a bit faster, let's just cut it over here, which is roughly at the 8-second mark. So for the number of frames, let's do 8 seconds times 25 frames per second, which is 200. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate. Alright, here's what we get.
新しい体験があなたを待っています。これから始まる AI との会話をどうぞお楽しみください。
And it's perfect. It actually animates her mouth really well. This is the best anime lip sync tool I've come across so far. Plus, notice that this pose is pretty tricky, but it's also able to, slightly move her as she talks. So this is really good for anime. Now, instead of anime, let's also try a 3D Pixar example. So I'm gonna upload this image, and then for the audio, let's try this.
Yes, this is his position, in 2 words. A little while since, he obtained an excellent offer of employment abroad from a rich relative of his, and he had made all his arrangements to accept it.
Alright, and then for the prompt, I'm just gonna leave it at she is talking, and then again, to make this generation a bit faster, I'm just gonna leave it at 8 seconds. So it's gonna truncate somewhere over here. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate. Alright, here's what we get.
Yes, this is his position, in 2 words. A little while since, he obtained an excellent offer of employment abroad from a...
Very nice, and again, you can see it animates this very well. The lip sync is very good. Alright, next let's try an example with multiple people. So I'm going to upload this image of two people doing a podcast together. Now over here, we need to select two speakers. Now there are three options you can choose from. The first one is if you have an audio clip of both speakers in the clip, and you want the AI to automatically detect which speaker says which part. However, I find that this option does not work well. In other words, the AI kind of has a hard time figuring out which speaker says which part. So it's best to use the second or last method. For the last method, where the audio clips are played in parallel, I'll show you what that does in a second. But for this example, let's select the second last option where the audio clips are going to be played in a row. In other words, we're going to play one audio clip followed by another audio clip of another voice. And so after you select that, there's going to be two slots for you to upload two different audio clips. So let's upload the first clip, which is going to sound like this.
Always be a first-rate version of yourself and not a second-rate version of someone else.
And then here's the second audio clip.
A failure is a man who has blundered, but is not yet able to cash in on the experience.
So if you choose this option where the audio clips are going to be played in a row, basically, it plays your audio clips sequentially. So it first plays your first one, followed by the second one. And note that up here, this is super important. So it's assumed that the person on the left of your image would speak out the first voice, and then the person on the right would speak the second voice. So make sure you actually upload an image where that's the case. In our case, because our first voice is female, that's why in our image up here, we have the female on the left. And then for the prompt, I'm going to put the woman and the man are doing a podcast interview together. Now, because the total duration of these two clips is 5 plus 6 seconds, which is 11 seconds, we also need to set the number of frames down here to basically match that. Now, just to make this a bit faster, I'm just going to set it to 10 seconds, which is 250 frames. Now, because this is a much longer video, to speed up my generation even more, down here, I'm going to select Tcache, and then let's get it to speed this up by 2 times. Note that up here it says it's best to only do this starting from the 10-second mark. So let's also drag this slider to 10 so it starts applying Tcache at around the 10% mark of the generation process. Alright, let's click generate. And here's what we get.
Always be a first-rate version of yourself and not a second-rate version of someone else.
A failure is a man who has blundered, but is not yet able to cash in on the
Very nice. You can see it does apply the different audio clips to each person in the video. Alright, next let's try something else. So again, I'm going to only inject people and objects, and this time for the reference image, I'm going to upload this image. And yes, I'm going to keep the background, so it's basically just image to video. And then yes, we are going to get two people to talk, and this time we are going to choose in parallel. So I'm going to show you exactly how to prepare the audio for this. Now let me get rid of this, and this does require a bit more post-processing for your audio clip. So you can use whatever audio editor you want, and here's our original audio clip with both voices together.
What will happen to our human need to labor?
So I think, like, if you're a CEO, you've got to ready your team.
All right, so what we need to do is actually create two audio clips from this, one for each voice. So what I'm going to do is split the clip where it switches to the other voice, which is like over here, and then I'm going to drag this down here. And then for the first audio clip, I'm going to mute this last voice and only save this one. And then for the second audio clip, I'm going to mute this and unmute this, and then save the clip like this. And then I'm gonna upload the two voices back into here. And again, note that if there are multiple voices, the person on the left is assumed to speak first, and then the person on the right. So make sure you create an image that aligns with this. Anyways, I'm gonna upload both audio clips onto here, and let me play this for you.
What will happen to our human need to labor?
So notice that it's going to be silence over here, and this part will be where the male speaks, right? So again, if you select this last option, they're going to be played in parallel, so both audio clips will be played at the same time. And they also need to have the same duration. Anyways, let me play you the second audio clip.
So I think, like, if you're a CEO, you've got to ready your team.
Alright, and then for the prompt, I'm going to put they are talking. I don't really need to prompt it much because we're using this image as a reference. And because this is 11 seconds long, over here we also need to set the video length to 11 seconds times 25 frames per second, which is 275 frames. And then also for skip stepping, I am going to turn on Tcache. I am going to select around a 2x speedup, and let's start skipping the steps at around 10% of the generation, like before. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate. Alright, here's what we get.
What will happen to our human need to labor?
So I think, like, if you're a CEO, you've got to ready your team.
Very nice, and you can see that it's also able to incorporate like the click sound and the pause of the man at around this part.
So I think, like,
so, you know, the way he stutters and pauses is also super realistic. And notice that it also animates the people in the background, so everything looks very fluid and natural and realistic. Next, let's try a singing example. So I'm going to upload this image of two people singing. And then over here, I'm going to select two audio sources played in a row, so one after the other. And then over here, I'm going to drop two audio clips of a duet song, which I basically cut in half. So here's the first half.
But your presence fills the morning air.
Alright, and the second half is just a continuation of this, but here the dude starts to sing.
Oh, we dance around the edge of something.
And then for the prompt, let's put the woman sings, then the man sings. Aspect ratio is 16:9, and then over here the total duration is 10 seconds. So down here, let's also set the frames to 10 seconds times 25 frames, which is 250. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate. Alright, here's what we get.
But your presence fills the morning air. Oh, we dance around the edge of something.
Very nice. Again, as you can see in this example, it can handle singing very well. And you can generate clips like this, where you have multiple singers in the video. Alright, next let's try something even more complicated. And this really shows you how flexible and powerful this VACE MultiTalk FusionX model is. So here, I'm gonna upload a control video. And for this, I'm basically going to take a reference video and transfer the character's movements onto my new video. So I'm going to use transfer human motion. But note that there's also a ton of other settings you can choose from. For right now, I'm just going to choose transfer human motion. And then, yes, I want the whole frame to be transferred. And then for the control video, I'm going to upload this dance video. Let me play this for you first. Alright, so that's the video, and then for the reference image, yes, I'm gonna upload a person, and over here, as before, I'm gonna upload this imaginary K-pop idol. And basically, I want to get her to move according to this reference video, but also, at the same time, get her to say something based on whatever audio I upload. So to keep this simple, yes, I'm gonna keep the background, so for the final video, it's just gonna be this image with a white background. And then, yes, it's one person speaking, and this time, let's upload a Spanish audio clip. So here's what the audio sounds like.
A veces solo necesitas una voz clara y directa que transmita la información de manera sencilla y efectiva, sin rodeos ni complicaciones.
Alright, and then for the prompt, I'm just going to put the woman is dancing. For the resolution, let's match this with the input image, which is going to be a 9:16 vertical video. And then for number of frames, because this is 10 seconds, let's set this to 250. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate and see if it can handle all of these inputs. Alright, here's what we get.
A veces solo necesitas una voz clara y directa que transmita la información de manera sencilla y efectiva, sin rodeos ni complicaciones.
This is so good. It matches everything. Like the way she moves is exactly the same as the reference video. Plus the lip sync is also really good. It's as if she's actually saying the Spanish from the audio clip. So as you can see from this example, this tool gives you ultimate control. You can just upload any reference character and control how they move in the video. Plus, you can also add audio on top of that to get them to say whatever you want. This is a super powerful tool. Alright, so that sums up some of my demos. Hopefully this gives you a sense of all the diverse things that you can do with MultiTalk and VACE. Next, let's go over how to install this. Like I said, currently the easiest interface to use is called WanGP, and this even works with as low as 6 GB of VRAM. So I'm going to link to this GitHub repo in the description below, but if you scroll down a bit, you can see that over here they've added VACE MultiTalk to WanGP. Now, I've already gone over how to install WanGP in a previous video. So if you don't have WanGP installed, see this video for a full installation tutorial. However, if you're like me and you already have it installed previously, well, you need to update to this new version. And how do you do that? Well, you simply navigate to the folder where you downloaded everything, which in my case is just this folder. So let me click into this, and at the top here, let me type in cmd to open this up in command prompt. And then afterwards, all we need to do is type in git pull to basically pull the latest updates from the GitHub repo. And you can see that it's really quick. And afterwards, you can see that it has created all these MultiTalk modes for us. Now, there might be some additional packages or dependencies that are needed for this new update. So let's also install those. Now, for my previous installation tutorial, note that I used Conda to create a virtual environment to house all the packages and dependencies, and that virtual environment is called WanGP. So let's go inside our virtual environment first. And to do that, we simply type in Conda, activate, and then whatever you named your virtual environment. In my case, it's WanGP. So you can see that we are now within our virtual environment because it's in parentheses at the start of the line. And then afterwards, let's type in pip install-r requirements.txt. And this is basically going to install all the requirements that are listed in this text file if we don't have them already. So let's press enter and give this a few minutes to detect and install anything that's missing. Alright, and if you see this line with no error messages, then you've successfully updated WanGP. Now let's just exit out of this so we can start this from scratch. So again, I'm going to click into my WanGP folder, and then at the top here, type in cmd to open this up in command prompt. And then afterwards, again, we're going to use Conda to activate our virtual environment, which is called WanGP. And then after we are within our virtual environment, going back to the GitHub repo to run the application, we just need to type this in. And yes, we are doing image to video, so it's better to use this line. So let me just copy this line and then paste it in here. Alright, now the first time you run this, it's going to take a few minutes, but afterwards you should see this link, which you can hold Control and click to open up this Gradio interface on your browser. And that's pretty much it. Notice that right now we are using the latest version 6.7. So that sums up my tutorial on MultiTalk using WanGP, which I think is the simplest interface where you can use this with low VRAM. Let me know in the comments what you think of this, and if you run into any errors during the installation, also welcome to paste the error message in the comments below, and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.